All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Sean here with Blue Ridge Silverhound, and we have the weekend edition of the Pocket Change Market Report, this time for July 8th, 2023. We are officially knee-deep into the summer, and this report will give you a general indication of how well our errors and varieties are selling for on the secondary market, specifically eBay. And we go back the last 24 to 48 hours, and we pull some of those sold items and put it together in one report so that way you get the most accurate, up to the minute sales data for a lot of the popular errors and varieties that are currently being found today in our pocket change, going through dealer stock, coin shows, you name it. It's one of my favorite, and it's a lot of favorites to a lot of folks who are just trying to stay ahead of the curve when it comes to reselling your coins. All right, so that's what we do here on this one. A few kind of ground rules to be mindful of. We don't talk about graded pieces at all, okay? Grading indicates that you have to spend money to grade something into a plastic holder just for a numerical grade, okay? I'm here to tell you, when it comes to errors and varieties, the coins sell for themselves, okay? They will realize the full potential of the market as long as there is a demand for it. There's just really no need to grade any of these, all right? There are certain circumstances where high-end rarities that cost many hundreds, if not thousands of dollars might require it. But for a lot of the coins that we talk about, all right, you go out there, you find them, you have two options. You either keep it into your collection, and that's a great way of doing that, by the way, on the cheap, because you're playing with house money for the most part. But also that reselling component. There are a lot of folks that I personally know, myself included. This is kind of like a side gig, right? It's our part-time job away from our full-time job. And it's a great way of enhancing your wallet or your purse. Another thing as well, all of the photos you're going to see here today are original to the respective seller's listings. We don't juice or doctor any of the photos to make them look better for our video. You're going to get the absolute best and worst images. So you guys need to know this. And just know where that bar is being set. If the bar is low enough but still selling for a lot of these coins, then you do what's necessary. I know coin photography can be a little bit tough, but we're going to try and help you guys out here the best that we can. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into the first selection of coinage. And actually, it's not coins at all. We actually have a fair amount of paper money to talk about today. And after this video, I think some of you are going to gain a whole new appreciation about how well some of these pieces of currency does on the secondary market. And you might even go out of your way to actually look for some of these. So we have a 1963 $5 bill. All right. It's definitely missing something. And that something is that overprint, which is the third print of the process that's applied to any sheet. So that includes your district seals, both the red, or if it's red, for a legal tender note, blue for silver certificate, green for Fed Reserve notes. This is a Fed Reserve, of course, so it's missing the green seal, the black seal, and the serial numbers as well. So this is just a classic case of probably the inkwells ran dry, which it does, They're not auto-fed, and we're talking about machines that still have human intervention to them, so there's always going to be mistakes. So this note does look legit. I don't see any indication of any chemical foul play here. Usually using chemicals to dissolve a certain amount of the ink on the paper will affect all the ink on the paper, and I just don't see it here. There were a number of these that did escape the BEP, and if you found one, these are actually quite valuable. This one sold for $293.50 with 35 bids. Very nice note, even though it's pretty well circulated. And the next one that we have here is a little bit something more recent for us to consider. Okay, it's a 2017A $1 bill. First and foremost, that's a really cool serial number. They called out millions. It's a type of fancy serial number. Generally, the notes that end in 4 zeros or 4 nines are usually pulled out of the runs, okay, by the BEP employees. They usually don't allow these to circulate. But if you did come across one, and they've been known to escape from the BEP quite often, That's part of the battle there. All right, if you have one that's called Millions, where you have either a 1-digit or a 2-digit starting out the serial number, those are quite desired. Now, if you look at the bottom left-hand serial number there, you'll notice that the second digit is a little bit either under-inked or insufficiently inked. And that's the case here with this one. So it's a double doozy. And the note is actually in pretty nice shape. You can see a nice close-up of the partial 6 there in the serial number. When we look at the reverse, obviously not the most beautiful note. It had circulated for quite a while. Hard to believe that, it took a while for someone to actually discover this thing. Even someone who is not in the hobby will see something pretty special just by looking at the serial number. So this one right here, really nice copy, ended up selling for $121 with 33 bids. That is a phenomenal amount of money to sell this thing for in today's market. All right, now we have a few coins. We have a 1955S Lincoln wheat cent. What's cool about this one, if you look on the reverse there, on the left-hand wheat stock, we have something called a retain cud or a pre-cud. So eventually, the piece of the die will end up falling out, all right, just due to general attrition and wear and tear. Bits and pieces break off, they fall out, and that's going to leave a cavity in the die. Now, in this particular case, the piece of die is still sitting there, but it's quite loose. So you're going to get some shifting in the design detail like this one does. But eventually, it's going to become a full-blown cut that's raised on there. So in the meantime, why not find these as well? Because they're very well collected. This one ended up selling for $10.50 with 9 bids, and the coin is actually in really nice shape. The next one that we have here, you're going to kind of see a recurring theme in this video because people are actually taking advantage of the fact that these broken die issue type of strikes are actually quite valuable, and they're highly desired by the error community. There's actually a very large amount of people that collect cut die breaks, pre-cuts, major die cracks, things like that. So we have a 1964D. This is one I haven't seen in quite some time, but you can see the cut die break here. This is what a cut would look like after the piece of die had fallen out altogether. So it's going to leave that cavity in there. All the metal flow during the striking process will go into the empty cavity, thereby creating a raised anomaly onto the coin like you see here. This one obviously had circulated quite a bit, and where the cut is positioned at on the coin, it's really easy to miss. So this one right here ended up selling for $40.50 with 5 bids, and we're seeing kind of like this regular, normal kind of floor to these things. Generally, some of the older dates like this one will typically settle in that $35 to $40 range, and then they just go up from there. What's that catalyst? It's going to be the size of the cud, folks. The bigger the cud, the more money that's going to be cranking out of that proverbial ATM on the auction platforms. We didn't have much in the way of lots, but let's go ahead and talk about this lot of 3 1999 Lincoln Memorial cents. They're all off-center by some degree, but I'm going to tell you guys this. Some of you are looking out for lots that you can buy and then resell by an individual piece basis. All right, you just got to make sure that the cost falls in line to what you can do with these things. Because if you pay too much for a lot, you're going to end up holding the bag seriously. All right, you're not going to be able to double your money, which is ideally where you need to be after fees. But 1999 off-center Lincoln cents are very common. These were pulled out of mid-sewn bags back 24 years ago when they were released. So they are quite prevalent today, my friends. So this 3 coin lot right here sold for $40.20 with 5 bids, which puts it just above $13 a piece. There's really not a whole lot of room here, as these things routinely sell for between $15 and $20 a piece. So make sure you're wary of that. I know the prospect of buying large lots is attractive for the sake of making money, but this one probably you should stay away from. All right, well, we're back to currency. How about this $50 bill? It's a 1996. It's the first initial run of this new design with the big head portrait, which in the very beginning wasn't too popular, but people were excited with a new design layout on their currency. So this is what we found here. All right, so they did encounter issues, the BEP did, with the printing processes of the new notes. Specifically, some of them were missing the green seal. Both on the 20s and the 50s, there has been a large, long documented history of the green Fed Reserve seal completely missing off of there, or the district seal in this case, because the Fed seal is black on the left side. So the green seal normally would be under this 50 right here, or stamped above it, or printed above it rather. This one missing. It's worth noting that there's a pretty sizable margin tear here. Don't know what's up with that. But outside of that, the note is in really decent shape. Looks like it has no fold marks, but that tear is concerning for condition. This one ended up selling for $170.25. The 50s, we don't see too much with the missing green seal. The 20s are a little bit more available on the secondary market. This one's interesting because it's a 1983 Lincoln Memorial cent. It's the copper-plated zinc age of composition. All right, it started in 82. And that's what we're seeing even to this day. My favorite composition, not really. But this one looks almost copper because normally with an off-center strike, you don't really see a whole lot of, I guess, just overly brown color without too much of the split plating. But again, I don't have the coin in hand to observe it, but how cool would it be if it was a transitional error and an off-center strike like this one here? This coin will be worth a fortune. So it's always good to, kind of imagine that something like this could exist out there in the coin collecting world. And, these things are cheap enough to take a flyer on. Like this one ended up selling for $28.95. If I saw this coin and I became kind of remotely curious, I would probably buy it. And if it wasn't the transitional error, I would probably still end up keeping the coin because it's got a full readable date. It's a tougher date for an off-center strike, and it's problem-free. So, a very nice piece here. All right. Some of you are asking, what's the easiest friggin' thing to sell on eBay today? And I'm telling you, 2023 sealed bank rolls of these Lincoln cents, by far today, the easiest thing that you can make money on. How easy is it? Well, this particular seller, using their images that they have on screen right now, sells these in lots of 10. So that's $5 face value. Get this. This one was sold as a traditional auction format. It was not a buy it now. All right. Some of you are probably scared to run these at like a 99-cent start bid, because you're trying to price protect the face value. And I get it. I understand. But here's how crazy these coins are. And the big chase is, of course, those extra V Lincolns. That's kind of been all the buzz these days. This person sold a lot of 10, that's $5 face value, for $25.70 with 4 bids. They started at rock bottom on this and still managed to make quite a fair amount of money. All right. By the time the dust settles and we factor in shipping, the cost of the coins, this individual probably made about $13, $14. All right. After fees and all that. So, I mean, if you sell one lot per day, all 7 days of the week, and you continuously list these until you're out of inventory, my friends, you can make some pretty serious cash over the summer just by simply doing this. And again, you got to kind of take the anxiety and fear away about selling these for cheap, because they're not selling for cheap. These have been the most desired current rolls today. They're even beating out the American Women's Series quarters. All right. And that says a lot. So if you have access to a supply of 2023 Lincolns, primarily the Philadelphias, because that's where the big chase coin's at, I would highly suggest that you guys go out and you pursue these and then flip them, all right? You don't even have to worry about going through them for that one chase coin. Just go ahead and flip them, and you're going to probably make more money than you would finding an extra V variety of this one. All right, so $25.70. That's a pretty good sale for just $5 in coin. And speaking of which, this is the coin you're going to be looking for. All right, and this one has the extra V little stamping there next to the VDB initials. As of right now, you know, there are theories as to what this could be. However, I can tell you that Annex and NGC are grading these as extra V variants. All right, so along with Mike Diamond's article that he had made about this coin, there's a lot of positive news that has been put forth on this coin as being a legitimate thingamajig. And we're just going to call it that. I'm not even sure if it's an error or a variety, but there are still people talking about its legitimacy. Could it be an ejection mark of some sort? Kind of hard to say. So this one particular coin right here ended up selling for $169.50. Quick little word of caution for you folks, because again, everything here is just for entertainment. There's no financial kind of advice here with my videos. Is that is a lot of money. These things have settled down to around $40 to $60 as of today. So $170 for one that came right out of a BU roll is a little bit on the high side. All right, considering that these have come down in value here recently. The next one that we have here, again, it just proves that if you know what you're looking for, and if you have the coin and it checks out, you can sell this thing without a graded holder wrapped around it. Although the graded holder sure would be nice for the warm and fuzzies out there. But how about 1955 Lincoln Wheat set? Doubled the die obverse. One of the, again, the strongest doubled die that you will encounter in life is sitting right in front of you. There are a few die scratches that you need to know about in order to legitimize the coin's authenticity. And if you know what those are, then you're in good shape. Now, what's not in good shape is this coin. It's got a pretty deep gash above Lincoln's eye, and the coin, honestly, looks like it probably was cleaned at some point. All right, it's got a very unnatural color and surface to it. This one still managed to sell for $1,505.25. And I do come across these legitimate 55 DDOs probably once every 2 weeks. All right, they are kind of a staple in today's coin world. They're one of the high-end pieces that, you know, are simply not going to go down in value because of how important they are to Lincoln cent collectors. So we did come across a fair amount of gutter fold errors. Okay, these are all notes that were produced on sheets that had wrinkles on them. And I have a suspicion that there's a buyout happening between one or two individuals that are buying out all of the gutter folds. And who could blame them? These things are downright sexy. If you find one that's all knotted up like this $5 bill here with all sorts of gutters, then that is going to be a hotly pursued item. This one right here ended up selling for $190.25. You can see just how crazy it is. It even affects the overall cutting geometry of the note, which is wild, and it creates all sorts of neat effects to it. And again, you don't have to grade these. Just saying. Here's another one here, this time on the silver certificate. Now, I can tell you this. The only part of this particular note's printing process that did not have a gutter was the overprint, because you could see that the bottom left serial number was overprinted on the gutter, which means that at some point a BEP employee had stretched out the wrinkle on the sheet to allow for such print. So when we look at the reverse as well, everything was all printed in accordance as if there were no wrinkles, but you could see that the second print, which is the primary front printing of the note, all of the wrinkles kind of collapsed back into itself before it was printed over. So this one right here sold for $78.35 with 10 bids. It does have a pretty good edge tear up top, so that is a major condition issue. Doesn't affect the value too much. It probably could have sold for maybe $90 or $100, but you know, just keep in mind that even as butt ugly as this one is, you'll still get money out of it. And this one of my favorites, has just a spear long gutter that goes from left to right. This thing is wild. 1977 $1 bill this time around. This one sold for $117.76 with 12 bids. Gutter-wise, these are one of the more desirable patterns of gutters when they go left to right as opposed to up and down. Yeah, pretty wild and crazy. Again, coin dealers, sometimes they don't know what they have here, and they would be incentivized to offload these at a really good deal. So when you do discover that, and if a coin dealer is willing to play ball because it's just not their bread and butter, they could hook you up with something there. And we also have this 1981A as well. Really nice. I mean, you can see just a swath of gutters there on the right, but it looks like it's also got a piece of tape over that last gutter. I think someone probably tore it. I don't know if it's a joke or something, but this note's pretty trashed. You can see on the left side margin area also that there's a chunk missing. There's the reverse for you. You can see actually the tape on that left side gutter there. This one sold for $45.13 with 12 bids. Again, ugly, still sells. All right, so we're back to a coin, I think, for one listing here, and then we're back to more paper money, but that's okay. How about 1943 over 2 silver war nickel? The good old Jefferson here owns one of the high spotlight varieties that you can find in the series, and they're pretty easy to find. This one right here has that strong tipped spike that goes from the base of the 3 and upwards, but also look for that kind of like flat shelf as if it was the bottom of a 2 hidden behind that 3, because there are examples that have that same spike, but it's actually a die crack, but it doesn't have that bottom flat shelf area on the bottom curl of the 3. You want to make sure it has both. This one sold for $58.50 with 11 bids. The coin is in pretty nice shape as well. Yes, indeed, we are back to a few pieces of currency. Here's the 1974 $1 bill. They call this a misaligned overprint. You can see the overprint shifted south, so that's probably as a result of a shifted sheet prior to the print. Best way to kind of gauge this is if you see the serial number and it's overlapping some other elements of the second print, then you're in good shape. But primarily this green seal, which is supposed to be centered on the word 1 here, is far south than where it should be. This one sold for $50, 11 bids. And there's a little bit of a back image there for you, just showing some of the folds and circulation wear. And here's another misaligned overprint, this time on a 1977 $1 bill. Again, note the green district seal, far south of where it should be. This one sold for $65.63 with 16 bids. That's a lot of sixes in there. But again, really attractive notes. These are very, very collectible today. And especially on other denominations other than $1 bills. And the more misaligned they are, the more money that these collectors will throw at you. And here is our other missing green seal $20 bill. This time on the 2004A $20 bill, the colorized version of this, and you can see the green seals missing from the 20 between 96 and the 2004A. These are the 2 dates that are notorious for that missing green seal, so look out for that. $96.88 with 18 bids is the final sale price for this one. There's a little bit of a back image on that 20 there for you. We also have this 1916 Buffalo Nickel. Again, there's some random dates within the Buffalo Nickel series that you need to pay attention to for the 2 feather varieties. Okay, so that's usually a 3rd feather right here. This one is missing, and that's due to a over-polished die issue or an over-abrasion. But you can see some of those polish lines right there to help corroborate what's happening to these coins. Grade-wise, this one looks to be about a VG8, somewhere around there, maybe VG10 on its best of days. It does have a partial horn, I would say about 50% there. And this one sold for $25. So again, this is a coin that realistically you could cherry pick for maybe $1 or $2 and turn around and sell it for $25-30. I would say that's a pretty good way of making a few bucks in the process. And yeah, they're really neat varieties too. They're in the Cherry Picker's Guide. Of course, we can't forget our good old friend Tuskegee Airmen quarter with the burning building strike through, as you can see on this one here. I've talked about these till the end of time, and they're going to be talked about for many years forward. This one looks a little worse for the wear. Yeah, this one came straight out of change probably last week. It's that recent. Still, easy to liquidate. This one sold for $32. So you can't completely hate on it. These things in mint-state condition 2 years ago sold for like $200, $300, $400. It's crazy. They're not worth quite that much these days. Yeah, someone had just a random mint bag of 1968S Lincoln Memorial Cents. It's a BU bag. Now, it's still sold for a pretty fair amount of money. All right, this is what they call kind of like sealed equity. In this case, it's not sealed at all. It's been opened, which will largely affect the value of such a thing. This bag of 1968 S's, which by the way is not a very sexy date to look for varieties, still managed to sell for $284.50 with 19 bids. Keep in mind this is $50 face value, so this person made approximately 5 times face. If the bag was still sealed with the original string and all that great stuff, this bag, I would assume, probably would be worth about double, $500, $600. So if you do come across these and you have kind of like that itch to open it, keep in mind what you're going to lose if you don't find anything. Here's another Extra V, 2023. This is probably more along the lines of a realistic market value. The pictures aren't that great, but that's fine. Again, this is kind of like the low bar being set to sell these things. You do need that close-up, though, of the VDB initials along with Extra V anomaly. This one sold for $55.25 with 2 bids. So again, the interest factor is kind of coming down a little bit. There's less people bidding on these, which indicates that the supply is fulfilled to all of the demand currently out there. Now people are just trying to pick up a few pieces at a very cheap level. All right, so again, we're seeing these dip down into the 40s now. We'll see how long that lasts. Really cool one here. I mean, you don't see clips this large on more modern, kind of like post-2000 coinage. So we have the Lewis and Clark Expedition reverse nickel. These are all dated 2004, I believe, with a nice sized rim clip there. You even have some Blakeslee effect. It's very noticeable on the reverse with that flattened edge there, that rim. $34.95 was the sale price on this one, and I would probably presume that this one was found very early on, although the coin does exhibit very little bit of circulation wear. And not the greatest pictures, but we know it's a cut die break on this 1983P Jefferson nickel. Yeah, just kind of, make sure you control your lighting when you're photographing coins, and primarily take your coin out of the 2x2 because you're not going to have nearly as much glare. But you can see the CUD over We and Trust right here. This one sold for $46.25 with 9 bids. Very strong price. The condition is meh. It's mid. It's nothing to really write home to mother about. Still very desired. Not a great looking coin here. Yeah, it's not the best, but it's a 69S. Sure, it's a fun date to search through if you're looking for the big double to die, of course. But here's another one that maybe you guys aren't aware of. Pretty big CUD die break here that connects from the rim to the top of America. Woo! Very sharp. You can even see a little bit of something going on here. It could be an area that could be a second CUD forming. I don't know. But we do know there was a little bit of a crack in the die at that point. But yeah, this is, again, another one that I don't talk about enough because it just hasn't shown up in the market enough. This one sold for $47.87 with 10 bids. Very strong amount of money for as small of a CUD as it is. And the final thing to talk about today, we've seen singular coins of the Tuskegee Airmen sell for between $30 and $35. How about a 3-pack of them? This seller had 3 relatively nice examples of this event that I would say would be a must-have. A best offer was accepted for this with shipping. The buyer ended up paying $99.25, which again, for the grade, I think that's a really easy choice to make here, buying this one up. I could see these being flipped for 50, 60 bucks a piece, based off of the condition of the coin, which I would say all three of them could be mid-state condition. But when you have three different type of forms of that burning building anomaly, which they're all going to be different anyways, because that's just formed grease on the die, due to, just a buildup of stuff. You're going to get different sizes and shapes to this, and collectors love that. If this went into a personal collection, I wouldn't hate either, because it's quite phenomenal. So 75 cents short of a $100 bill, sign me up. But that's going to go ahead and do it for this one, ladies and gents. Time for you to go out there and make your imprint known. Go out there, do some cherry picking. I know a lot of you are going to be doing the show circuit here. Long Beach. Is Long Beach still going? Maybe? Yes? I don't know. Anyways, yes, time to do your thing. Go to the bank, go to the coin shops, and do some hunting. Look for those errors and varieties, and have fun doing it. And just know that there is a pretty nice cash windfall at the end if you do find them and you want to sell them. That's it. I'm out of here. You guys take care. Happy hunting and love you guys.